Who uses the Sanity Cross Dataset Duplicator plugin? Does anyone use that plugin? Please stop. So my talk today is all about custom content applications with the App SDK. Who's used the App SDK? Yes. Very exciting and a very new thing that came out this year, and I know I found it very exciting to work with myself. So hi, I'm Simeon. I've already done the introductions. If this has been a core tenet that's always been true to me with Sanity. So I first joined Sanity in 2011. No, not 2011, 2021. I've been saying it wrong in my head all day. 2021. I first used Sanity in 2019, 2 years before then. And this has always been a fundamental truth of using Sanity, the platform, is that if Sanity hasn't shipped it yet, you can do it yourself. It's this ultimately configurable thing. Sanity essentially built the atoms for you to work with, call them sharp knives, call them what you like. It was the pieces that you could then use to assemble whatever experience that you like. And you didn't have to wait for Sanity to build it if you had the time and the resources and the imagination. You could build it yourself. And I always really loved that. Came from WordPress where you had to hack everything together, where Sanity now was an option. So I did some of that. I did a bit of DIY. And I really, when I put this slide together, I thought, doesn't this look like a huge brag on my part of all these plugins that I've made? But essentially, there's all these things I wanted from WordPress and from other experiences. So you just build plugins, and they're very easy to create. And this is not a monument to my work. This is a monument to the work of our amazing design and engineering teams, that I could just do a few little things and publish that, and then that would provide some new functionality to the studio, again, because all the fundamental things were taken care of. So I can just ship those things. And the cool thing is, as time's gone on, Sanity has shipped some of these things, so you don't need these plugins anymore. I created a spike for tasks a couple of years ago. We have tasks in Sanity. Who uses the Sanity Cross Dataset Duplicator plugin? Does anyone use that plugin? Please stop. Or tell me why you're still using it, because like releases and live preview have superseded that. So you shouldn't use it. I get told off by our solution engineers now that people are still using that plugin you made. So I get blamed for some of these things. So Sanity Studio is a toolbox. And it always was, and with V3 especially the other year when that came out, it was a really awesome toolbox, very configurable, but it kind of felt like you had to access it with a crowbar sometimes. You had to sort of pry it apart. It was, you were driving some customization into it instead of creating something whole cloth from very small parts. And so Sanity App SDK is the toolbox that I've said a few times since it's been released. It's the thing I actually always wanted. It is all the very small pieces to be able to build the experience that you need. So Sanity Learn is what I predominantly spend my time on at Sanity most days a week. It is alarming how many pictures of me there are in this deck. I will admit that. There was a photo yesterday of me presenting at Partner Day, and here's me standing next to a slide with me on it. It's I got to look at that guy a lot. I edit all that video myself. I've had so many people come up today and say that they feel like they know me, and it's very appreciative. It has been really, really awesome to meet so many of you today that I've never met in person before, and to feel like the world's least important celebrity. But so Sanity is Sanity Learn is this place, getting work ready with Sanity. That's been always the tenet of this particular part of the offering, is that Sanity documentation will tell you how an individual thing works. Sanity Learn will tell you how to stitch those individual things together to achieve a goal. To get developers to think beyond themselves and think about the lives of their authors, and how can you go beyond the defaults and build something truly amazing. And I created Sanity Learn because we were doing workshops. So I got asked to do this workshop many, many years ago. I don't know what I'm doing with my other arm in that photo. So I'll move so you can ask the same question. I don't know what I'm doing. Also, I mentioned about orange earlier. When I first joined Sanity, I mentioned something about the logo was orange, and then I got made fun of. Rightfully so, because it's not orange, it's red. But I always thought it was. And so yes, it warms my heart that now we got rebranded this year and now there's orange everywhere. So it was meant to be. It always was orange. Anyway, we did these workshops in person, and this was great, but I had nowhere to put this content. I was sort of just barking instructions at people all day. So I built an application in Sanity to store all of this content. And so this was the very first version of the Day One with Sanity Studio course. And I built this sort of in my spare time, and this was great fun, and there's a bunch of little fun customizations in there. For example, like the little button that you click to complete a task. It's a custom bullet point. It's not actually like a component or an object. Anyway, small details like that were fun to put that together. So Sanity Learn has always been a Sanity project. It teaches Sanity, it runs on Sanity, it's Sanity all the way down, which is cool. And then a few years later, we've got our partners do workshops themselves. Using this content. So now they do certification, which we launched last year, and which we only just recently, if you weren't aware, you don't have to be with one of our partner agencies to take certification. Anybody can take the certification course now as well. Who is Sanity certified in the room? Yeah, look at that. Very exciting. And so, yeah, we see teams doing their own workshops now based off of that content. That's great. All the people in that photo had to watch videos of me. And so, again, here I am teaching workshops. We've taken this on the road, gone to other conferences around the world. And so, yeah, Sanity Learn has just been really a fun thing to do at Sanity. And just some numbers. These aren't updated, but we'll see some updated numbers in a moment. We just recently crossed 100,000 Sanity Learn users, which is really cool. That's anybody who's logged in and has interacted with the content. Almost 1,000 certified developers. There's 27 courses there. And the content goes over 3 front ends as well. So even though Sanity Learn's just one distinct front end, actually the same content ends up in our documentation and in the managed pages. It goes everywhere. It also goes onto YouTube as well. Look, more photos of me. It's actually the same photo. Bit lazy putting those thumbnails together, gotta say. But it's a Sanity project, all of the content, and everything about it really is in Sanity. So for example, something that will become increasingly clear as this talk continues is that I'm not a developer, I'm not a real engineer, and I'm not a real designer either. So for example, saving user progress for 100,000 users, I don't know how databases work, because I've always just been a CMS guy. So I'm I know how Sanity works. So we've got 100,000 progress documents in our marketing data set, which I'm sure everybody loves when they run queries. But yes, every bit of information about Sanity content and Sanity Learn content and Sanity user progress, it's all stored in that data set. It is a Sanity project through and through, which is really, really cool. And when you've got all of that content in a Sanity studio, I'm going to change sides because I've really upset people on that side. Sorry, people on this side now. But you had it good for a while. So now I can run a query like this, which this query represents show me every partner that achieved certification in Q1 and rank them by the order of the number of people who were certified. And so when you've got everything in Sanity, you can extract the value of your content. And this GROQ query is a lot to write, admittedly. But it got the job done, which is very cool as well. But yeah, when you've got it all in Sanity, you can do this sort of thing. We also get a lot of user feedback of people who are using the Sanity Learn platform. And this has been very heartening as well, to get up-to-date feedback. I mean, we launched these courses, and there's, of course, going to be a typo or something in there, and being able to respond to that. But it's an awful lot of positive feedback too. I logged in yesterday, and I was like, pow. I was expecting it to be good, but this is next level good. This is real-world user feedback. And we get a few posts like this. We get a few people have this sort of positive. Okay, that was just a small sampling of what I could pick. But there is a problem, however. So we get all this positive feedback, and it's been a great success, and huge numbers, and Sanity Learn's going great, right? Everyone's very happy. But there's this one problem with Sanity Learn that I need to solve. And this is why I've needed to turn to the App SDK and some of the features that we've got. There's this one problem. There's one big 6'4" problem with Sanity Learn, and it's me. I don't have enough time to extract all the value that I need. There's a lot of people that depend on Sanity Learn now, obviously. Our partners team find great value in making sure that we have certified agencies, and it becomes part of the marketing and all of this sort of thing. So how can I then, as one person working on Sanity Learn, get every bit of value out of it that I can? Now, the truth is, it's not just me, and I did want to make sure that I give kudos to everybody who has authored content for Sanity Learn. So this query here is showing me all of the unique names of every person that's authored a course on Sanity Learn, and I'm very grateful for their contributions, of course, as well. So it isn't just me, and likewise, we've had other contributors to the Sanity Learn application too, which I'm grateful for those contributions. Some of them very small, some of them absolutely enormous, and that's been great too. But largely, sort of a lot of the work comes to me. So I need to find ways to increase the efficiency of working with Sanity Learn, both content and application, day by day. And that's what I want to show off today. And again, just sort of stressing how big of a Sanity project this is. When everything is working together, it is so very great. So in particular, after our spring release earlier this year, I had to go and rewrite the entirety of our certification course, which I think ended up being about 80 documents, about an hour and a half of video, 5 different courses. So to be able to work in all of that in a single release, so we could still continue to work on stuff that was in production, work on that as a separate release, be able to live preview all of that in real time as well. When you're using every part of the platform together, it truly is fantastic. But I needed to go further than just the authoring of content, needed to really get the efficiency of unlocking the value out of the content. So working in the studio has been great. Working in the presentation tools, great. Working in the structures builder is great. This is expression. A ship in the harbour is safe, but that's not what ships are for. Content in the studio is safe. It's not what content's for. We can go further than that. We can get more out of our content than what we do in the Sanity Studio, though. It's a great home. Then we use Sanity App SDK for everything else outside of the studio, which I'll show in a moment. Here's some of the examples of things that I have been requested for is content review, workflows, feedback reporting. So there's a number of different things. As I said, there's multiple teams that rely on knowing how is the content on Learn performing, whether that's for individual contributors or for agency people. And these reports, like I said, and like I showed, I can write a GROQ query, I can answer those things on demand. But what if people were able to actually get the access to this information themselves? I can build them an app to say, don't ask me, go and check the custom app, and it'll give you the information that you want. And so this premise continues to be true. If Sanity hasn't shipped it yet, you can do it yourself. And that's what I've done for today's demo. Before we get to the App SDK demo, I wanted to show how functions are being used on Sanity Learn as well. So every time somebody gets certified, I get notified, which is great. So the user ID, a few people passing the certification exam recently. It's heartbreaking when you fail the exam. Because I've got a little sad emoji. And it's heartbreaking every time. But it's good to see people getting certified, and we'll see the real numbers of that later. This is what the certification blueprint and function looks like. So this compares your progress document before and after a change was made. And was there a change made in the exams array? And was there a pass mark that wasn't there before? If so, then we find out which exam changed. Create a URL that links directly to that person. So in that Slack notification, I can click on that user and see who it was, if I wanted to write them a congratulatory note or something. But yeah, this is the function that powers that. I've just changed this over from a GROQ-powered webhook recently. It's much easier to maintain now as a function. Also automate the feedback process. As I said, when feedback comes in, it's incredibly valued to be able to respond to it very quickly. So there's this feedback form on the bottom of every lesson on Sanity Learn. I implore people to use it. I always say it's like sending me a DM in real time. We'll see more of that later. That instantly sends a Slack message, which tells me, there's some error in a particular document. If I see that looks like something I can fix very quickly, I've generated a link that goes straight to that document within the studio. I can go and make that change. It's got a reference to the lesson. I can change that, hit publish, and it's done. And so here's the function that powers that, just so I get a notification every time there's feedback, just in case I can fix it immediately. And it does feel really good to get reported. There's a typo in this lesson and have it fixed, 30 seconds later. It's pretty great. So, with all of that set up, let's take a look at the App SDK. So this is the application that I have built to look at a number of different ways that different view modes to look at content from Sanity Learn, content that can be derived from Sanity Learn. So as I said, partners, cohorts, members, progress, certifications, all of that is stored as Sanity content. So when I'm saying Sanity Learn content, it's not just course and lesson data, but it is, partners as well. So the team that are interested in knowing how people are getting certified will be able to log into this view and see which of our partners are certified, how many and when. There's links to go off to the studio and find that out. We could also see, who of the internal teams have been certified. Looks like Team Patrick on the internal team got one certified member. So congratulations to Patrick there. That's fantastic to see. And we've got only 24 of 40 Sanity members are certified. We've got to pump those numbers up, Sanity. So this is just one. So this is basically 5 apps in one, and something I wanted to show today. Just again, so I don't have to go and write that monster GROQ query to go and find out these sorts of reports. We'll be able to get people to generate these reports themselves. So to look at user progress and numbers is something that I've wanted to do as well, to be able to determine what the trends are. And this is looking at live data. So it's Unfortunately, not always impressive. I saw a few people got certified today, and I was hoping to not see that in the red. But essentially, there's a few less people certified in the last 30 days than the previous 30. So I'm not going to make the exam easier as a result, but maybe we need to drive more people to it or adjust the learning content in some way. But this is all real time as well. You might see some of these documents update as we're looking at these things as well. But I also wanted to have a look at these numbers because we have some sort of significant changes to be able to drive more leads towards Sanity Learn, and I wanted to have these numbers in place first so that I could compare them later rather than making these changes without actually measuring what the impact of them was. So yeah, this is user behavior trending the current 30 days versus the previous 30. And again, this is all data derived from values within Sanity documents. So feedback is something very core to the Sanity experience. We've seen a few demos of this. So I've created this feedback processing thing. So a big part of this is like to determine a few things. Does something need to actually change? So there's a few steps going on here. Not only does that feedback form run a mutation to create a new document in Sanity, I've also created a function now to do sentiment analysis on the content of the feedback as well. I'd say that's positive feedback. I don't know, I'm going to have to check the prompt on that one, not just constructive. But anyway, yes, I've got a function now that's running sentiment analysis. And not only that, but I've wanted to be able to view, or at least pre-generate what a response might look like. There are times when feedback comes in and it's, I got a dependency error, or like PNPM isn't installed on my machine. Now that's not feedback for me, but it would be possible to very quickly, because this is what I've done, particularly when it's about a framework or a package I don't know what they're talking about, I've just gone to ChatGPT and pasted the feedback in there and then asked, what should I send them? And I send them back the response. I could generate that on demand. So essentially, when somebody sends feedback, if they send back technical challenges, we should be able to immediately respond to that feedback, and it becomes more than just a feedback form, but more of like a direct support channel. But yeah, so this is a way to more rapidly move through this feedback. I know this kind of looks like the structure builder, looks like a document list, but this would be a way to be able to do things that perhaps the studio doesn't do currently. Again, if Sanity hasn't done it yet, you can do it yourself. So if I needed to do bulk operations, for example, or faster ways to filter these document lists, I can essentially create my own means here to just edit the fields that I need to, and then be able to process the rest as required. But yes, thanks for all the positive feedback, everybody. And all of this, okay, we need to get off this tab. Courses. So content auditing is something that I've wanted to look at more with Sanity as well. Essentially, content auditing has been largely just this content is starting to feel out of date, therefore I'll just go and rewrite the whole thing. But I know we could be more granular about that, and I've never really paid close attention to what's working and what's not. And I know that we have like an analytics provider running in the background. So I've pulled in stats from our analytics provider, and then also pulled in data from the Sanity documents as well to be able to match up documents. Again, and this is a list view that makes sense to me with this content, because this is mastering content operations is the track. Then we have the course here, day one content operations. Then we have the lessons within that. And I can view the counts of how many page views those are getting, but also it's been illuminating just putting these numbers together. Things like the creating a schema lesson gets a disproportionate amount of traffic. Therefore, is it indexed by Google? Why do people keep coming back to this document? Could our documentation actually be improved if people are finding this lesson in isolation more useful? These are good questions that come out of just having a different view of the data that is able to intersect with other data sources, and that's a great use for the Sanity App SDK as well. We can also see the drop-off is quite dramatic to the end of the courses as well, so not seeing like how few people actually make it to the end, unfortunately. Is there something to be said for are the courses too long? Could we split those up? And these are all questions that I'll be able to answer now that I've got this view that is much easier to digest this content. And we can see a few yellow flags there. I've just highlighted any content that's over 12 months old. That's probably something that does need to be reviewed. I know there's been a lot of feedback, for example, there's a WordPress migration course, and we've got a lot of new tooling in that regard. That is probably overdue for a rewrite, but this is all now visible as well. And again, with all of this, because this becomes this great dashboard to consolidate all this information together, we can still link out to other sources. So we can open any of these things in Learn or in the studio or in our analytics provider, and to get these views across. We've got so many AI tools. You've heard about them today. We've got so many AI platforms. We're going to see workshop participants from yesterday. We went through all the AI tools yesterday. But there was a way of working with AI that we didn't have, and I'm impatient, so I built it myself. So if we go over into the Content Review tab, on the left-hand side is a portable text editor. So this is actually a live editable view of the document, just highlighting the content area. And I wanted to be able to review this document through a few pre-configured system prompts. And I think this actually tied into like checking against the style guide there earlier. So this review workflow tool, this is just using Vercel's AI SDK, a mouthful, and using some model I can't remember behind the scenes there for the server side of that. But I've created, these are 3 Sanity documents that contain these system prompts, because I want to analyze this content in accordance to these system prompts that I've written to check for first, spelling and grammar. That's a pretty basic way to check content. But another thing for educational material in particular, the curse of knowledge is a huge problem. So, am I mentioning some concept that has never been mentioned before? I'd like to highlight that, because if I'm assuming too much knowledge, then that makes the course more difficult to read. So for all manner of different dimensions, you might want to use an AI tool to be able to review the content. And I wanted to do this in a chatbot sort of way, so it wasn't just a static analysis, so that I could yell back at the AI when I was unhappy with the review. So I've got this here. I can start the review process, and hey, look at that. Okay, so it actually worked. So it starts streaming in all of these particular changes that it has decided are important to highlight to me, and I can then bring any of these into view. Content modeling should not be capitalized. Fair enough, that's a reference. I don't want to change that here. And schema should be capitalized here. Now, I don't know if I agree with that, but this is the fun of working with AI, is that you need to keep modifying the system prompts. And sometimes this gives me 30 things, sometimes it gives me 2. But this is essentially the next tool I've really wanted to build, is because at the moment, I publish content and then I wait for the feedback to roll in. And if it doesn't make sense, I'll go and change that. But I don't want humans to have to be the first ones to do a review pass on the content. Obviously, we share it around a bit internally as well first before it goes live. But just other ways to be able to double check content of this shape before we start. This is really useful. So that's just a few different ways that one could use the App SDK to build experiences that simply would not have been possible in the studio, or you would have had to have forced into the studio in some way. And to be able to integrate them with services other than Sanity's own services, as was asked earlier. If you want to bring your own AI provider, you can do that. But yeah, that's it. That's it from me. That's it for the demo. Thank you.